Damar Hamlin. On January 2, 2023, Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest during a game against the Cincinnati Bengals. After making a routine tackle, he collapsed backward onto the turf, motionless. Medical staff reached him within seconds and began CPR. An AED delivered shocks to restart his heart, and he was rushed to the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. For nearly a week, he remained in critical condition, sedated in the ICU, while the football world held its breath. Hamlin later said the cause was commotio cordis, a rare cardiac arrest triggered by a blow to the chest at just the wrong moment of the heartbeat. Hamlin survived because of immediate CPR, rapid defibrillation, and world-class trauma response on site. 9 days later, he was discharged from the hospital. Months later, he was medically cleared to return to football. By the 2023 season, he was back on the field. Kevin Everett. On September 9, 2007, Buffalo Bills tight end Kevin Everett's life changed in an instant. During the second-half kickoff against the Denver Broncos, Everett made a tackle on returner Dominic Hickson. His head struck the ball carrier's shoulder, and he immediately collapsed. He didn't move. Trainers rushed onto the field, and it quickly became clear the situation was far more serious than a routine injury. Everett had suffered a catastrophic cervical spine injury, a fracture and dislocation between the third and fourth vertebrae. The trauma threatened to permanently paralyze him, and in the first hours after surgery, doctors admitted his chances of walking again were slim. But Everett's case became a breakthrough in emergency treatment. Team spine surgeon Dr. Andrew Cappuccino administered induced hypothermia by running cold saline through an IV as Everett was transported. Cooling his body helped limit swelling and damage around the spinal cord. Surgeons stabilized his spine with a graft and plate that night. Incredibly, within 48 hours, Everett moved his arms and legs and walked independently by mid-December and met teammates at the home finale. His NFL career was over, but his recovery was hailed as a medical triumph and proof that immediate intervention and innovative treatment can change outcomes. Kevin Everett went from a moment doctors called dismal to walking again within months. His story remains one of the most dramatic examples of survival and resilience in NFL history. Reggie Brown. On December 21st, 1997, Detroit Lions linebacker Reggie Brown nearly lost his life on the field. Late in a game against the New York Jets, Brown made a tackle and didn't get up. He laid motionless on the turf at the Pontiac Silverdome as teammates and fans watched in silence. Trainers rushed in and quickly realized he wasn't breathing. His spinal cord injury had cut off his ability to draw air. CPR began immediately, and doctors used emergency equipment to restore his breathing. Brown was immobilized and rushed to Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit. Doctors later said that without such a rapid response, he would have died within minutes. Surgery stabilized his spine, and over time he regained movement in his arms and legs. But his football career ended that day. He never played another down. By the way, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed and dropped a like for the algorithm. Chris Sims. On September 24th, 2006, Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback Chris Sims nearly died from internal bleeding after finishing a game against the Carolina Panthers. During the game, Sims took repeated hits to the chest and abdomen. He stayed in, battling through pain, and even led a late touchdown drive. What no one realized at the time was that his spleen had ruptured. By the time he left the stadium, he was pale, weak, and in critical condition. Doctors rushed him into surgery, where they removed his ruptured spleen. They later said he had lost nearly 5 pints of blood. Without immediate medical attention, the injury would have been fatal. Sims returned to football the following season, but he was never the same player. The combination of recovery, lost strength, and competition for the starting job ended his time as Tampa Bay's franchise quarterback. His career never fully recovered. Alex Smith. On November 18, 2018, Washington quarterback Alex Smith suffered one of the most gruesome injuries in NFL history. While being sacked by Houston's J.J. Watt and Kareem Jackson, Smith's leg was twisted violently under him. The result was a compound fracture of both the tibia and fibula in his right leg. He was carted off the field, his season immediately over. But the injury itself was only the beginning of the fight. Smith underwent emergency surgery, but complications followed. His wound developed a severe infection, a flesh-eating bacteria that nearly cost him not just his leg, but his life. Doctors later said amputation was on the table, and he required 17 surgeries over the course of months to remove infected tissue, stabilize the bones, and reconstruct the leg with skin grafts and muscle transfers. For a long time, survival and basic mobility were the only goals. Smith wore an external fixator that ran through his leg just to keep it together. Walking again seemed uncertain. Playing football again felt impossible. But after nearly 2 years of rehab, he shocked the world. In 2020, Alex Smith was medically cleared and returned to the field. He started 6 games for Washington, won NFL Comeback Player of the Year, and proved resilience few thought possible. Jason Pierre-Paul. On July 4th, 2015, New York Giants defensive end Jason Pierre-Paul nearly lost his life in a fireworks accident. While celebrating Independence Day in Florida, Pierre-Paul mishandled a powerful firework that exploded in his hand. The blast caused severe injuries, including the amputation of his right index finger and parts of his thumb, along with fractures and burns. He was rushed into emergency surgery to save his hand, and doctors later said the quick medical response prevented potentially fatal blood loss. At the time, his NFL future looked doubtful. Losing grip strength and dexterity is devastating for a defensive lineman, but just 4 months later, Pierre-Paul returned to the field with a heavily bandaged hand and a specially designed club cast. Remarkably, he rebuilt his career. After multiple surgeries and rehab, he became productive again, recording double-digit sack seasons and eventually winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2020. Teddy Bruschi. In February 2005, just days after playing in the Pro Bowl and weeks after winning his 3rd Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, linebacker Teddy Bruschi suffered a stroke at his home. He was only 31 years old. Doctors discovered he had a congenital heart defect, a hole between the chambers of his heart, known as a patent foramen ovale. The stroke left him temporarily with vision problems and partial paralysis, and for a moment, his football career was the least of his concerns. Survival was the focus. Bruschi spent months in rehab, relearning balance and motor skills. Many assumed his playing days were finished, but by October of that same year, against medical odds, he returned to the field. In his first game back, he recorded 10 tackles against the Buffalo Bills, showing the same relentless motor that made him a leader of New England's dynasty defenses. He played 4 more seasons before retiring in 2009. Ryan Clark. In 2007, Pittsburgh Steelers safety. Ryan Clark nearly lost his life because of a hidden medical condition. During a game in Denver's high altitude, Clark became severely ill. What doctors discovered was that his sickle cell trait, a genetic condition that can cause red blood cells to deform under stress, had triggered a dangerous reaction. The low oxygen levels at high elevation caused his blood cells to break down at an alarming rate, leading to organ damage. Clark's body went into crisis. His spleen and gallbladder had to be surgically removed, and he lost over 30 pounds during recovery. Doctors made it clear, if the condition hadn't been caught and treated quickly, it could have been fatal. For the rest of his career, Clark was barred from playing games in Denver, but he returned to the field in 2008 and went on to be a Pro Bowl safety, winning a Super Bowl with the Steelers and playing several more productive years. Trent Williams. In 2019, Washington offensive tackle Trent Williams revealed that what had first been dismissed as a minor growth on his head was actually a life-threatening cancer. Back in 2013, Williams noticed a small lump near his scalp. Team doctors initially told him it was benign and nothing to worry about. Over time, however, it grew larger and more painful. By 2019, after years of frustration, Williams sought outside medical advice. Tests confirmed it was dermatofibrosarcoma protuberans, a rare, slow-growing form of cancer that can become fatal if left untreated. He underwent surgery to have the growth removed. Doctors told him he was lucky. If he had waited much longer, the cancer could have spread and become terminal. Williams later said he felt betrayed by Washington's medical staff, believing they had downplayed the seriousness of his condition for years. The ordeal caused him to miss the entire 2019 season and deepened his conflict with the franchise. eventually leading to a trade to the San Francisco 49ers. Williams returned to the field and re-established himself as the best left tackle in football. He became a perennial All-Pro, protecting quarterbacks well into his 30s. Ricardo Lockett. On November 1st, 2015, Seattle Seahawks wide receiver Ricardo Lockett's career and life nearly ended on a single play. During a punt return against the Dallas Cowboys, Lockett was blindsided by a devastating block. He collapsed face first onto the turf and didn't move. For long minutes, the stadium fell silent as medical personnel rushed to him. Lockett had suffered a serious neck injury, a disc and ligament damage that doctors later said could have killed him instantly if the impact had been even slightly different. He was carted off the field, stabilized, and immediately underwent neck surgery in Dallas. The operation saved his life, but ended his career. Lockett announced his retirement the following year, explaining that doctors warned him another hit could leave him permanently paralyzed, or worse. Zach Miller. On October 29, 2017, Chicago Bears tight end Zach Miller suffered one of the most frightening injuries the league has ever seen. In the third quarter against the New Orleans Saints, Miller leapt for what appeared to be a touchdown catch. As he landed, his left leg twisted awkwardly. He immediately collapsed, clutching his knee in agony. What looked like a routine dislocation turned out to be life-threatening. The violent injury had torn multiple ligaments, but more dangerously, it had damaged the popliteal artery behind his knee. Blood flow to his lower leg was almost completely cut off. Without rapid intervention, doctors said he could have lost the leg or his life. Miller was rushed into emergency vascular surgery in New Orleans, where surgeons repaired the artery and stabilized the leg. Over the following weeks, he underwent 9 surgeries to save the limb. Miraculously, doctors were able to restore blood flow and preserve his leg, though his football career was over. Miller officially retired in 2019. Dennis Byrd. On November 29, 1992, New York Jets defensive lineman Dennis Byrd's life was nearly cut short during a game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Byrd was rushing the quarterback when he collided headfirst with a teammate. The impact fractured his C5 vertebrae and left him lying motionless on the turf. The stadium went silent as trainers rushed out, fearing the worst. He was immediately immobilized and taken to Lenox Hill Hospital in New York, where doctors performed surgery to stabilize his spine. For weeks, it was unclear if he would ever walk again. The injury ended his career on the spot, but survival and recovery became his new battle. Through extensive rehab, Byrd regained the ability to walk. Just a year later, he walked onto the field at the Meadowlands to a standing ovation, a moment that inspired teammates, fans, and players across the league. Byrd later wrote a book about his journey and became a motivational speaker. He tragically died in a car accident in 2016, but his legacy lives on as a symbol of perseverance. Kendrick Norton. On July 4th, 2019, Miami Dolphins defensive tackle Kendrick Norton's NFL career changed forever. Early that morning in Miami, Norton was involved in a serious car accident that caused his truck to overturn. First responders worked quickly to free him from the wreckage, but his injuries were devastating. His left arm was crushed so severely that doctors had no choice but to amputate it in emergency surgery to save his life. At just 22 years old, Norton's football dreams were over. The accident ended his career before it had a chance to fully begin, but survival became the victory. The NFL and Dolphins supported him financially, and the league granted him full disability benefits. Norton later spoke openly about the crash, emphasizing gratitude rather than regret. He credited first responders and surgeons for giving him the chance to live and shifted his focus toward helping others. Eric Berry. In 2014, Kansas City Chiefs safety. Eric Berry's career took a sudden, frightening turn. During a late-season game, Berry complained of chest discomfort. Team doctors ordered tests, and results revealed a mass in his chest. Further evaluation confirmed it was Hodgkin's lymphoma, a type of cancer that can spread quickly if untreated. At just 25 years old, Berry's career was put on hold as he began chemotherapy. He lost weight, strength, and endured months of treatment. By July 2015, Berry announced he was cancer-free. He returned to training camp that summer and shocked everyone by regaining his Pro Bowl form immediately. That same year, he earned the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award, anchoring the Chiefs' defense once again. Barry went on to make 3 more Pro Bowls before injuries shortened his career. James Conner. In 2015, University of Pittsburgh running back James Conner faced a battle far tougher than anything on the football field. Conner had already proven himself as a star. In 2014, he rushed for 1,765 yards and 26 touchdowns, earning ACC Player of the Year. But in September 2015, he tore his MCL in the season opener. While rehabbing, he noticed persistent chest pain and fatigue. Doctors ran tests, and in December 2015, Conner was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. At just 20 years old, Conner's life was suddenly at risk. He began chemotherapy while continuing to train. He often described going from chemo sessions straight into workouts, determined not to lose the fight physically or mentally. By May 2016, he announced he was cancer-free. Just 4 months later, he returned to the field for Pitt, wearing a face mask shield to protect him from illness during recovery. That season, he rushed for over 1,000 yards and 20 total touchdowns, cementing his comeback. Conner went on to be drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he became their starting running back and earned a Pro Bowl selection in 2018. Ryan Shazier. On December 4th, 2017, Pittsburgh Steelers linebacker Ryan Shazier suffered an injury that nearly cost him his life. In the first quarter against the Cincinnati Bengals, Shazier lowered his head to make a routine tackle. Immediately after contact, he grabbed at his back and rolled onto the turf. But this time, he didn't get up. His legs weren't moving. The stadium fell silent. Shazier had suffered a severe spinal contusion. He was rushed into emergency surgery to stabilize his spine, and doctors told him the reality. Survival was not guaranteed, and walking again was uncertain. For weeks, he battled partial paralysis and underwent intensive rehab just to regain basic movement. His football career ended that night, but Shazier's recovery became one of the most inspiring stories in modern sports. Less than a year later, he walked, slowly, carefully, across the stage at the NFL Draft to announce the Steelers' first-round pick, drawing tears and cheers from fans everywhere. Though he never returned to playing, Shazier turned his ordeal into a message of hope. He became a motivational figure, advocating for spinal injury awareness and proving that determination could overcome even the darkest odds. Deion Sanders. Deion Sanders has always been larger than life, but over the past few years, his battles off the field nearly cost him everything. In 2021, while serving as head coach at Jackson State, Sanders underwent surgery for a dislocated toe. What doctors discovered soon after was far worse. Dangerous blood clots were forming in his legs. The circulation issues became so severe that he developed compartment syndrome, and surgeons had to amputate 2 toes on his left foot to save his life. Multiple vascular procedures followed just to restore blood flow and prevent further damage. Even as he fought through those complications, another threat appeared. In early 2025, Sanders was diagnosed with bladder cancer after scans revealed a malignant tumor. He underwent a radical cystectomy, removing his bladder entirely and reconstructing a new one using part of his intestine. The surgery was brutal, but it saved his life. By mid-2025, doctors declared him cancer-free. Sanders later admitted the ordeal forced him to rethink everything: his health, his purpose, and the way he leads as a coach. Deion Sanders lost toes, battled through vascular surgeries, and beat cancer. And somehow, he's still on the sidelines today, proving that even legends have to fight just to survive. Patrick Mahomes. In May 2017, shortly after being drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes was the victim of an aggravated robbery attempt in Tyler, Texas. He and some friends had returned from a baseball game and pulled into a driveway when a vehicle blocked them in. A man exited, gesturing as if carrying a handgun, and demanded possessions from the group. Fortunately, no one was injured. Mahomes emerged physically unharmed after the ordeal. The suspect, Michael Pinkerton, later confessed to the robbery, and law enforcement arrested another man, Billy Ray Johnson, as part of the investigation. While the incident could have turned deadly, it ended without bodily harm, though the moment leaves a permanent mark on Mahomes' personal history. Brian Robinson Jr. In August 2022, rookie running back Brian Robinson Jr. was shot twice during an attempted robbery/carjacking in Washington, D.C. One bullet struck his hip and another passed through his knee. He was hospitalized and underwent surgery. Fortunately, the bullets missed critical arteries and major ligaments, which likely saved his life and allowed his football career to continue. Robinson made a remarkable recovery. He returned to practice just weeks later and debuted in Week 5 of the season, going on to rush for 797 yards in 12 games. Earl Thomas. On August 11, 2022, former NFL safety Earl Thomas's home in Orange, Texas, was engulfed by a catastrophic fire. Investigators determined that a lightning strike was the most likely cause. Thomas and two family members were inside when they heard a loud popping noise, indicative of lightning hitting the home, and spotted smoke before evacuating. Thankfully, all occupants escaped unharmed. Though no direct injury to Thomas was reported, the total loss of the home and the immediate danger of the blaze made it one of the more unusual, almost died moments involving a player. In December 2022, the Texas State Fire Marshal officially ruled the fire accidental and most likely caused by lightning, with no foul play suspected. Warren Sapp. In July 2016, Hall of Fame defensive lineman Warren Sapp was bitten by a shark while lobstering off the Florida Keys. He and a charter boat were exploring shallow water when Sapp reached into a crevice to grab a lobster, reported by some witnesses to be about 4 feet long, latched onto Sapp's left forearm. The bite caused a gash to his forearm. He was treated quickly on location, wrapped up the wound, and returned to shore for further medical care. ESPN reported he was okay after the incident. While the shark bite was serious, it was not fatal, and Sapp recovered fully. His survival added a surreal chapter to his larger-than-life legacy, one that includes dominating the line of scrimmage, earning multiple Pro Bowls, and becoming one of the most colorful personalities in NFL history. Victor Cruz. On October 12, 2014, while playing for the New York Giants against the Eagles, Victor Cruz ruptured his right patellar tendon in a non-contact play near the corner of the end zone. The injury was catastrophic. Tears to the patellar tendon are rare and often career-threatening, especially for a receiver whose game depends on explosiveness and cutting. Cruz was immediately carted off the field. He missed the final 10 games of the season, underwent surgery, and was faced with a grueling rehabilitation process. While this injury was not a direct life-or-death incident like some others on the list, it ranks among the most serious and ominous for a skill position player. Many questioned whether Cruz would ever return to form, or even play again. He did eventually return to the field, but the injury forever altered the trajectory of his career. Reggie Bush. In November 2015, Reggie Bush was playing for the San Francisco 49ers when the unexpected struck. During a game at the Edward Jones Dome, he was pushed out of bounds and slipped on the concrete ring that lined the playing surface. As he slid into the wall, he tore his left meniscus, an injury severe enough to end his season. What made this injury more controversial and dangerous was the nature of the environment. Bush's legal team later argued that the concrete area immediately outside the field, which they referred to as the concrete ring of death, contributed to the severity of the injury. They claimed it was a hazardous condition not present in most stadiums. The case went to trial in 2018. A jury held the Rams 100% liable and awarded Bush $12.45 million in damages, $4.95 million in compensatory, and $7.5 million in punitive, concluding that stadium negligence was responsible for turning a slip into a season-ending injury. Though the incident didn't directly threaten his life, it nearly ended his career under conditions he argued were beyond normal game risk. It became one of the most unusual legal fights in sports medicine, and a reminder that sometimes the field itself can be as dangerous as the hits. Myles Garrett. In 2022, Myles Garrett was involved in a single vehicle crash. The defensive end's Porsche left the road, flipped multiple times, and came to rest off the roadway. He suffered a sprained shoulder, strained biceps, and cuts and bruises, but walked away from the wreck. While the crash was serious, it did not involve life-threatening injuries, but the violence of the rollover made it a scare. Garrett missed some time but returned to continue his season. Dak Prescott. On October 11th, 2020, during a game against the New York Giants, Dak Prescott suffered a catastrophic ankle injury. His right ankle experienced a compound fracture and dislocation, forcing him off the field on a cart and ending his season. He underwent immediate surgery that night to repair the bones and clean the wound, and later had a second surgery to further stabilize the ankle and prevent long-term complications. Beyond the physical damage, there was real risk of infection, blood vessel injury, or complications from an open fracture. The recovery was long, grueling, and uncertain. Prescott missed the rest of the 2020 season, but he fought back. He was cleared in 2021 and returned to the field, eventually signing a big contract extension. Javid Best's NFL career with the Detroit Lions ended almost as soon as it began, and it was because of repeated, life-threatening concussions. Best entered the league in 2010 as a first-round pick out of Cal. He was blazing fast and explosive, scoring 4 touchdowns in his first 2 games as a rookie. But the concerns about his concussion history from college followed him into the NFL. In November 2011, while playing against the San Francisco 49ers, Best suffered a brutal concussion when he was hit mid-air and landed hard on the turf. He was carted off the field, and doctors immediately ruled him out. It was his second concussion of that season, and he never played again. Doctors warned that another head injury could have devastating, possibly fatal consequences. Best spent the next year on the physically unable to perform list, still experiencing symptoms like dizziness and headaches. By 2013, the Lions released him, and his NFL career was officially over after just 22 games. Joe Theismann. On November 18, 1985, Washington quarterback Joe Theismann suffered one of the most infamous and gruesome injuries in NFL history. During a Monday Night Football game against the New York Giants, Theismann called a flea flicker trick play. As he dropped back, linebacker Lawrence Taylor burst through the line and sacked him from behind. Taylor's weight drove Theismann's leg into the turf at a terrible angle, snapping both his tibia and fibula. The stadium went silent. Players on both teams immediately waved for medical help as Theismann lay on the ground with his lower leg grotesquely bent. Taylor, visibly shaken, knelt beside him until trainers arrived. Theismann was rushed into emergency surgery to stabilize the fractures. Doctors later confirmed it was a compound break with bone piercing the skin, the kind of injury that carries not only a career-ending prognosis, but also a risk of infection and life-threatening complications if not treated quickly. Although his leg was saved, Theismann never played football again. He retired at 36, finishing his career with a Super Bowl title and league MVP. Comment below what video you want to see next. If you enjoyed this, I'm going to be posting a lot here, so it would mean a lot if you subscribed. Thanks for watching.